Right, now let's just update you on the breaking news that we've been bringing you on the bottom of your screen for the past few minutes or so, and it's that BBC News, citing its sources, saying it understands that the United Nations has just ruled in favour of the WikiLeaks editor, Julian Assange, in his appeal over being detained. It could be that that means he can leave the Ecuadorian embassy where he's been stuck for 3.5 years. Let's go live to London. We can talk to RT's Harry Fear on the phone now. Harry, this really is a crunch decision for Julian Assange, isn't it? What's the latest?
It is indeed, and the 3 a.m. Statement that Assange posted this morning, in a sense, caught us all somewhat by surprise. He has effectively thrown down the gauntlet to the British authorities. If the UN report does indeed find in his favour, then the political pressure is very much on the British authorities to give him his passport back and let him go. Let's just recap his middle-of-the-night statement.
Should the UN announce tomorrow that I have lost my case against the United Kingdom and Sweden, I shall exit the embassy at noon on Friday to accept arrest by British police, as there is no meaningful prospect of further appeal. However, should I prevail and the state parties be found to have acted unlawfully, I expect the immediate return of my passport and the termination of further attempts to arrest me.
So clearly Assange is laying huge hopes on this UN ruling. The British police today, though, have already come back at that statement, affirming that they will arrest him if he tries to leave. And he has, of course, been stuck in the Ecuadorian embassy, wanting to reach Ecuador for now almost 4 years. And the policing scandal with the police on hair-trigger alert to actually arrest the man, well, that has been something of a political scandal here because of the cost of that £1 million policing project. And in this 3.5-year period, Assange has suffered, of course, inevitably from health issues holed up in the small embassy. He has suffered, of course, from depression, but also specifically, he's been recommended to have an MRI scan, a specialist scan for problems to do with his shoulder. And that medical advice, of course, he's been unable to fulfill. There is no MRI scan inside the Ecuadorian embassy. So it's possible that his health, as well as considerations about his work, his campaigning work with the website WikiLeaks, are part of the processes for him to have made this decision to throw down the gauntlet and, in a sense, go all in with this UN report. And this mess, of course, all started back in June 2012 when Ecuador did grant Assange asylum for his controversial campaigning work, bringing to light, of course, among other things, the collateral murder video in 2010 and the vast array of papers, the US diplomatic cables. Now, since the British police's statement, some British media are now reporting that the UN report does find in Assange's favour. He has been effectively, in a sense, incarcerated unlawfully. If that is the case, and that is received by British authorities in an official capacity today, we may see a further official development towards Assange's status today on Thursday.
OK, but we don't actually get anything from the UN until tomorrow. As things stand at the moment, what's understood has only come from the BBC through its sources, so it's unconfirmed at this stage as to what the UN panel has actually agreed. And I suppose the question is as well, Harry, as to what jurisdiction this panel decision has over the British legal process.
Indeed, and of course Assange is a man who is trying to very much put a spotlight on the international legal institutions. That is a position which the British government, the Swedish government and the American government caught up in the wider dimensions of this dispute, if you will. That's a position that they will be very reticent about.
Indeed. All right. OK, Harry, thanks very much for that for now. RT's Harry Fear in London. So just to remind you, it's a very important 24 hours ahead for Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, in the Ecuadorian embassy in West London for 3.5 years or so now, who appealed to a UN panel against what he said was his illegal detention there, suggesting that the authorities had been acting improperly in making him holed up in that embassy and seeking refuge inside it. It stems back to Sweden, that wants to question him over alleged sexual assaults a few years ago. But the suspicion from Julian Assange is that means he'll be then sent to the United States to face questioning over those massive leaks a few years ago. Not only that video showing Apache helicopter firing and killing people in Iraq, but also those tens of thousands of documents that blew the lid off American military operations, both in Iraq and, of course, in Afghanistan, for which America was extremely keen to get its hands on Julian Assange in the time since then. During that period, he's been stuck inside the Ecuadorian embassy, and now we're awaiting the UN panel decision on Friday. That's when we'll know for sure. That's when we'll get confirmation as to what the UN panel has decided, and only then, if it goes Julian Assange's way, well, that's then now big questions for the British legal authorities and the British justice system and the police. And let's not forget, it's cost the British Metropolitan Police in London millions, if not tens of millions, to keep an eye on Julian Assange in that embassy. So if it rules his way, big questions for British justice system and to what it does. Does it let Julian Assange walk out of the Ecuadorian embassy, or does it still go ahead and arrest him and extradite him to Sweden? If it doesn't go Julian Assange's way, he has said about 12 hours ago, or less than 12 hours ago, in a tweet that if he loses this appeal, he's basically got no more recourse to any appeals at any authority. He'll walk out of the Ecuadorian embassy anyway, and he will accept arrest. At the moment, though, the suspicion is, as reported by BBC News, that their sources tell it that the UN panel is arguably going to side with Assange, and that means he can leave the embassy and possibly not face arrest. We'll get more detail on that for you. Hopefully we'll get more explanation as to what the panel means in terms of United Kingdom jurisdiction as well, legally, so that we can put all this into context for you and hopefully get a lot more reaction to it as well here on RT International.